G'day everyone, this is Zero Organ Laser making his first deck profile video. This is of the March 2012 format and it's of my personal favourite deck, Gladiator Beasts. I run the A Hero Lives variant of Gladiator Beasts. It's quite consistent as long as your opponents don't stuff up your plays. You can pretty much control the field after a couple of turns and you can really drain your opponent's resources. So I'll just show you and explain some of my choices. I also like because it's a really pimped out kind of deck, really shiny. So yeah, here I go. Test Tiger times 2. I choose 2, not 3, because 3 can clog hand, but 2 is perfect for making Prisma plays. Also, if you come across a big beat stick you can't get over by attacking, Test Tiger helps you with that tag out for a nice Mamillo. Elemental Hero Prisma, one of the main cards of the deck, summonable by A Hero Lives.